faster leg speeds, it's not how the fastest humans reach elite speed. One of the godfathers of sprinting science, Dr. Peter Weyand, has already supported this concept and stands behind it. According to the SMU lab and their research, Usain Bolt achieves his speeds by applying up to 5 times his body weight into the ground. The only time you need to worry about cycling your legs faster is if you're over kicking, meaning the leg is spending too much time behind the hips and not recovering in a reasonable amount of time.
What up, YouTube? Here's another video. Last week I did a video, or you watched a video on acceleration. I shared about stiffness, leg stiffness. So what I did was I dug into some of my old videos. It kind of made me feel a little old because they were like 7-8 years ago. I was looking at videos and I was like, hey, I might as well show some videos of some athletes that I coached and what I did, depending on when I met them or what part of the season they were in. It was just, as a coach, especially a high school coach, and having young athletes, it's fun. Let's just say it. You learn a lot about yourself, and definitely a lot about other people, and definitely even more about the young folks. But anyway, so one of the first videos that I'm going to pull up, or Jade's going to put up for us, is an athlete I coached when he was a senior when I met him. He was a triple jumper. He went to states that year for triple jump, and I believe long jump, but I'm not sure. But one thing about this athlete he understood is just how to move. And what I mean by move, everything wasn't completely effective. And that's what we were working on in the short 2 or 3 months, because our season here in Arizona is fairly short, in my opinion. There is no indoor season. But anyway, like I said, just meeting this athlete. So what do we develop and what do we work on? It's just for him to learn how to compete, learn how to basically understand how to race. What are his gifts and how do we enhance them and encourage him through the first couple months, or the first short months of the spring track season here. So in this race is actually his first 100 meters of that year. As you see the race, you see he kept his head down, great acceleration. What I mean by great is, I call it great because I met this young person and he understood, at least, get my body moving. Like, he understood that. Like, it was very, very easy for to say, hey, you just need to move faster. And how his makeup was, he understood that. In the beginning of the race, he had a little funky way of getting out the blocks, but in my mind, I'm thinking, if you can overcome inertia and we can still work on down the track, I wasn't too concerned because, he was one of the rare athletes, and I'm 42, so I was a lot younger 8 years ago. But I would do like little block starts with them, or little 5-meter sprints or whatever. Well, not many athletes, and I think he might be the only one, or maybe a couple more now that I'm getting older, but he would definitely beat me. And I wasn't shocked, but they should be beating me. But he definitely could move, and me being I would call myself, when I was running, a good starter. So he would definitely get out the blocks and get me, and we would have fun competing. I'm sure he can. Now he getting older, so I think I can get him now. But anyway, so as he's getting down the track, separation from the pack, all that wonderful stuff. But here's the things that I've heard. After that first race, for one, he was excited. He was excited because he was like, I didn't know I could run that fast. And I told him he could. I don't remember that time of that race. It was under 11 seconds. Congratulations. I don't want to get into the idea of how fast they ran and all this wonderful particulars. If you're a YouTuber or you're a person that wants to critique, you get to watch out and you could figure it out. But what I want to talk about is some of the things that I've heard or would hear after watching that race. And actually, he came to me and said he was shocked about his time. And I was like, I'm not surprised. You know how to get out. You know how to accelerate. And he definitely, in college, the college he went to, he won a couple 60 meters in their championship or whatever they were doing. But anyway, he's still, I'm sure right now, was he 26, 27? He probably can still move a little bit. But anyway, people said to me, hey, thigh pop. They say, thigh pop. And they say this thing called thigh pop. They don't really say thigh pop. What people say to me is, lift your knees. Why isn't he lifting his knees? I'm like, thigh pop. His thighs are moving forward. He's covering ground, and he understands that to contact the ground, he's working well with the ground. So people say high knees because that's what looks good. Maybe they're older like me, and they like the Carl Lewises of the world who had great knee lift, great extension through the hips. This young athlete, hips weren't the greatest at that time. We definitely were working on it, and he couldn't really he couldn't get the extension I know he could to apply more pressure to run faster, which truthfully, running under 11 seconds and how fast he was moving his thighs or popping his thighs forward to snatch back and get up under his hip, I thought was very impressive, and I was very excited about that race. And like I said, it was his first race, so there was really nothing negative I had to say other than I believe in you, and he was kind of shocked. So going to the second race, because at this particular meet, we have trials and finals. All right, here's the finals of that day, but here's what I really want to discuss, because there's a younger athlete of mine in that race. He's in lane 3, I believe. Yes, it's lane 3. And he was a junior at that time. And my thing with him was learn how to compete. We'll work in the off season and let's see how we can get better. And in this race, I might be right or wrong, I'm not sure. This might have been his first 100-meter race as well, now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, and then what I want you to focus on in this race is lane 3. We already know what the other 3, 4, 5, what lane 5 is going to do, because we just watched the race on him. Like I said, great athlete, love him to death. But I want to focus on lane 3 to see what he was doing and what I saw at that time. So we're at the meet, it's the finals. So he gets out the blocks, he kind of stumbles, arms are moving, he's praying that, why are they pulling away from me? I noticed that he had no really thigh pop, he wasn't using the ground to strike, and he couldn't understand why his body wasn't moving any faster. So he was trying to understand, why is my body not moving faster? He didn't understand dorsiflexion. He didn't understand, to contact the ground. Be patient in your acceleration. A lot of times we say, and I'm gonna have to learn new words as I keep coaching and learning new things, but, pushing out of the start, the other athlete was a great pusher. I could say that to him. This other athlete, I couldn't say just push, and he understands. So over the course of some time, we developed a better relationship so we can be able to communicate better. So now saying all that, so in this race, what I want to focus on is the fact that let me explain some of the things that we worked on before we even watched this race. The biggest thing for him at that time was learning how to compete and understanding, what competing was, being aggressive, when to be aggressive, what aggressive means. I would often explain to them, if you in a fight, or have you watched boxers box and they're not, wild, or at least you would hope they're not wild. But I was like, you have to be a relaxed aggression. You have to understand what that is. And then through that process, teaching a lot of dorsiflexion and a lot about what dorsiflexion is. And I'm as strong as any coach should be about dorsiflexion, because it helps so many things. It is your foot's on the ground first, and you're on one leg with your foot on the ground. So what we worked on a lot was one arm snatch, and really starting with lightweight, working with a dumbbell, one arm snatch. That was the biggest thing I could say that I remember. I'm sure, if he was sitting next to me, he would remind me of some other things. But I remember the biggest thing focusing on him was obviously, some hip flexibility that he was struggling with just to get his thigh forward. But at the same time, he was naturally strong, but now let's use the ground and apply force so we can be fast. So we're going into the race now. All right, in the race, he obviously learned a lot of patience. This race was a year later. And once he gets erect, meaning straight up and down, he's striking the ground, and then he pulls away from his components. The biggest thing I can say about, what we developed, I was extremely excited watching this race. Being the fact of where we came from, a lot of times young athletes, or just athletes in general, they don't even recognize how far they came. And this athlete we did a lot of things and a lot of hard work. And He was, again, I don't remember the exact times. Like, again, I won't get into it. It was under 11 seconds for that final that he ran. So what are the biggest things that I am trying to extract from this video so we all can get an understanding and become better people and better coaches? It is the fact that, everybody has their own process and everybody develops their own way. And this particular athlete, he made tremendous strides from that first year starting running track at 11 in his junior year, and now coming in this next year being one of the top sprinters here in Arizona in the state. So what do I take from that? Again, like I started the video, I was doing everything I could to help these athletes develop. So when they go to college, maybe a college coach can just keep developing compound interest on it. There was not a thing where I wasn't completely trying to win a race. That was not my goal as a coach. You needed to win. My goal was to make them better competitors and definitely better athletes, and technique wise, dorsiflexion, thigh pop, understanding what step over the knee means instead of saying high knee, understanding what step over the ankle is, basically dribbling. But a lot of the terminology I was working on getting them to understand when they're running down the track, and they're like, okay, coach, what should I have done at this section, or what should I have done here? So I was developing all that. Whether they won or not, I was excited about them anyway. Now, if we watch that race again back, I know just as well as many people know or could know, he could have ran that race a lot faster. And there's certain things that he could work on out that start. But going from that past year to this year, that was tremendous progress to me. That was tremendous. We were only moving forward at that point. So helping athletes understand how to compete and what actually sprinting is. And a lot of what we get away from is, like, again, we talk about acceleration and, like I mentioned in the other video, head down, all this stuff. But can they actually just sprint? Because some athletes get out the blocks, as you saw in this race, but they can't finish the race. He's actually just applying pressure, not trying to understand, will it work? Like I would tell him over and over, just be patient. Those are parts of the race. In the beginning part of the race, we're developing. I'm trying to get you to understand it. As long as you're patient, you're going to catch a lot of people. And obviously that's what he did. So tremendously excited for his development at that time. Like I said, this is 7-8 years ago, for where he was going and how people were becoming excited about who this young athlete is and was at that time. So I'm going to end this video with, I had a senior athlete, I had a junior athlete. Now I'm going to go to a younger athlete that I had, kind of still have. I guess she in essence is still around, so I can't really say she's gone. This young athlete I met when she was 11, right before her 12th birthday. She started doing training with Grit, off and on, not by her choice, but just off and on. But I was constantly in contact with this young person, and she developed tremendously. And in this video, she was 13, I believe. I'm not sure. No, I'm pretty sure she's 13. She was 13. What I want to share about this young athlete and how she developed is she did everything I asked her to do. And this was her outlet. She understood. She knew how to apply pressure. She learned that just by her natural ability. She knew how to apply force, I should say, force to the ground. And she learned that basis just off natural. She was a cheerleader and she could flip and all this stuff. So I don't know, go with that. Or if she's just natural and she understands, we can go with that. Either way, she knew how to apply pressure or apply force. I keep saying pressure when I should say force. But anyway, so in this, a lot of jump rope. We did a lot of jump rope when she first started that freshman year. Definitely developing her in the sense of how to cycle. Mama Swift would say to her often, like on a unicycle, get on your unicycle, step over the knee, step over the calf. Those things were extremely important for her young developing body. And she grew a lot, a lot of growing pains. But this being her freshman year, this being her just freshman year. And I was excited about this race. And if I remember correctly, she was just excited too. So the greatest thing that I loved about this race is right here in the middle of the race where she started to honestly just pull away. But in this race, in the middle section of the race, I was very impressed by how she used the elbows back, like, like I would say often, kind of yell at her, but it's all good. She striking the ground. She's developing tremendous amount of stiffness through her ankle. I believe her dorsiflexion could be better. I believe I knew she was going to get stronger. So I was very excited about this development and where she was as just a freshman at 13 years old. And here's the conscious part that we all, have to, I always implement, because this is conscious athlete. This is what we do. The thing that I noticed in bringing the neurological part into this whole breakdown, when this young lady, and I could name other athletes, but we're just going to use this young lady. She, great stride, 13 years old, was very excited about it. Very excited about it. When the mental, whether home life, a lot of things go on, she would develop in her right leg a different pattern, a different cycle. And I learned this as we learned each other. That was our process of me learning her, she's learning me. And I would say, I learned very quickly that neurologically things were starting to change. Now, she developed the permanent movement. Like, I can correct it, say, hey, fix that movement. But in her mind, she may have been somewhere else, or like I said, there's a lot of conscious understanding that we were developing, or I'm learning, she's developing. So it was a lot that we were going through at that time. But if you're looking at this race, that's what this page is about. That's what conscious athlete, that's what I want to express with everybody is every person is an individual, and every person has their own greatness, and every person has their own path. But in this race right here, and I can throw on other races of her, but I just picked this one because you can see it the best. This was tremendous of hard work and development that she did. She worked extremely hard just for this race. And I remember she was very excited after this race. And that's what this is about. Not going back, not trying to say go back, but learning how you got there and remembering that even if you're in life, the process that you've been through, well, that's what it's about. How hard you can work through it. And then for people, coaches, family, individuals you love around you, that point out and remind you, like, you still that person. You're still that person that worked hard if you put in that hard work. So I constantly remind her of that. She knows that. And like I told her, that stride that we saw is permanent. She worked hard enough to where it's permanent. Now it's just adding the conscious part. And that's what this page is about. Conscious athletes. So we all can understand and grow. And like I said, we're all our athletes. So there was a couple breakdowns. This video went on longer than I thought, but I guess I enjoy these topics. So definitely going to do some more. From my perspective, like I said, there's a lot of information out there, and some of it's confusing. Some of it's not confusing. Some of it just could be wrong, and I could be wrong. But either way, I love it, and I enjoy this process. So peace out. What are you? So start again. Peace out, YouTube. Hey folks, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Oh yeah, hit that bell, so you can know more about Swift Sundays.